Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Tynetta from Sting Nail Co. And today we're going to talk about how to do a removal. So first things first, you're going to want to cut the length of the nails that you're not keeping. If my client wasn't keeping her natural nails, then I would cut them a little bit shorter. But as you can see, these nails are a little bit transparent, so I can see where her natural nails stop. So I'm just cutting them there. However, if you cannot see that, make sure you flip their hand over so that you're not actually cutting too close to their skin that's under the nail. Once you're done with that, I'm going to go in with the extra coarse carbide drill bit. I get mine from stingbeauty.com, link in the description box. I'm going at about a speed between 20 and 25,000 RPMs, and I am just removing the bulk of that product. This is what's going to cut down a lot of time with your soak off because there's not so much product to soak off. I do want to let you guys know this clip is not sped up at all. This is real time, and as you can see, this is taking me less than a minute to go ahead and thin this one nail down. This is why you want to make sure you have the RPMs turned up on your e-file, because if you have it at a really slow speed, you're really not going to be saving any time. And honestly, these type of drill bits are made to be used at a faster speed. It works better at a faster speed, so just try that. I promise you, you're going to save a lot of time. Okay, so I have sped these clips up just so you guys can kind of see the process without having to sit through everything, but I'm literally doing the exact same thing. Now, a couple things I want to mention. If you notice, I'm moving all around the nail. I'm not just thinning out one spot at a time. I'm going gradually through the entire nail. This is because if you leave that drill bit in one spot for too long, it will get hot and it will burn your client, okay? Also, if you see that I'm running my thumb over the surface of the nail, that is me touching the surface to check if it's getting hot, okay? You don't want it to get so hot that your client is screaming out. You never want to hurt your clients. You want this to be a completely comfortable and enjoyable experience. Plenty of people have nail trauma from being cut and burned at the nail salon, so they're probably already kind of nervous every time you get the drill out. So just doing these couple steps is really going to make that process a lot more enjoyable for your client, and then a lot more enjoyable for you because you're not worrying about hurting people. Now, in terms of how thin do you need to go, that's really up to you. You do need to remove the top coat. If you have about an hour to sit, then that's all you need to do. But for me, working in a salon setting, I like to have my soak-offs done within 30 minutes or less. So I do try to thin the nails out pretty much close to the natural nail. However, you do not want to touch the natural nail. So when you see that it's very, very thin, go ahead and stop, because if you get this drill bit on the natural nail, it will damage their nails. And as you can see, I'm steady putting my thumb on the nail just to make sure that I'm not getting anything that's heating up. And yeah, I'm just going to continue thinning this nail out until I'm happy with that. And then also, I always like to check the other nails before I move forward, just to make sure everything is nice and thin and nothing's too thick or too bulky, so that we can get this soak off done in a good amount of time. So the next thing I'm going to do is get these foil wrappers. I got these off Amazon. You can click the link in the description box to my Amazon list and it'll be right there. I'm going to place some 100% acetone right on that pad, and then I'm going to wrap that around her finger. You have to make sure that that pad is directly on top of the acrylic nail, and that's what's going to melt that acrylic. I do like doing this instead of putting acetone into a bowl, just because I feel like that's a waste of acetone, for one. For two, the client has a little bit more freedom, it's a little bit more comfortable, and they don't actually have their entire hand soaking in acetone, which can be very drying, very cold and uncomfortable. And I do like to put a little bit more acetone in there once I get it wrapped up. Press down on it, make sure that it's directly on top of the nail so that I can be sure that everything is soaking, okay? So same thing, just wrap it around, press that pad down on top of their fingernail to make sure that everything is making contact, and then I'm going to pour just a tinge more of acetone in there to keep that process going a little bit faster. When I'm working on a soak off, I start with one hand and then move to the other. So right now I have not done anything on her other hand. I'm going to go ahead and get all of these nails soaking with the acetone foil wraps, and then I'm going to move over to her other hand. This is going to give this hand time to soak, so by the time I'm done doing this step on the other hand, I'll be able to come back to her first hand and remove the acrylic. So I skipped her other hand on the video, but that's what I just did. Now I'm coming back to this hand, and this is how much the acrylic has melted. So it's pretty good. Most of it's melted off. I'm just using a metal cuticle pusher to go ahead and push everything off. It looks like a lot of pressure, but it's really not. You don't want to have to press down too hard. If there's still acrylic on the nails, you can either file that off with your hand file or soak one more time. And as you can see, those little bitty spots on her nails where the acrylic is still there, I'm just going to point it out for you right here. So right here on this finger, you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to use the 180 grit side of my hand file. This is not a coarse nail file. You don't want to do 100 grit or 80 grit because we are so close to the natural nail. You do not want to ever use anything that coarse on the natural nail. It's going to tear their natural nail up, and we don't want that. We are doing healthy nails only over here, okay? So I'm just going very lightly over those areas that still have acrylic. Instead of me going back in with the extra coarse carbide drill bit, this is replacing that step. So if I do touch her natural nail, it doesn't damage her nails, okay? I'm going to do that on all of her nails, shape them up just a little bit, and then I'm going to place those foils back on. This is going to give the rest of that acrylic time to soak off. I do pour a little bit more acetone when I put it in there, just so that everything is still nice and wet and everything is saturated. And then I would say about 5 more minutes for this soak. So I check those again after 5 minutes and, hoping and praying that everything is finished soaking, and everything was. And that's just because of how thin I filed that acrylic on the first step. And you're going to do the exact same thing, just using your metal cuticle pusher, just pushing that melted product off the nail. And as you can see, it's really not that much left. Like, this was a very, very quick way to do a soak off. I like doing my soak offs this way because it's just so time efficient. This is a perfect example of how your nail should look after a soak off, nice and healthy, not thin, not ripped off, not red. Everything is ready for her next service. I hope you guys learned something in this video. If you have any questions, leave them down below, and I will see you guys on the next one.